You're my biggest embarrassment, Noah. That's what my father said. Not during a fight. Not in a moment of anger. Just flat. Factual. Like he was stating the weather. We were standing in the garage of my sister's house in Richmond 2 hours before her promotion dinner. She was being recognized for completing her 4th deployment as a combat medic. Bronze Star. Press coverage. Dad beamed. He was polishing her boots when I walked in. Didn't even glance up when he said it. You're my biggest embarrassment, Noah. I remember staring at the back of his head thinking, did he really just say that? I'd flown in from D.C. that morning, took personal leave, put on my dress uniform pressed and neat, drove myself to the house he said was family only. I hadn't even made it to the living room before I was dismissed like an errand boy who'd overstayed his welcome. No one else heard it. Just me, him, and the sound of his polishing cloth sliding over black leather. I didn't answer. Just stood there, frozen. His next words weren't an apology or even a deflection. Just this. You don't make this family look good. At least your sister earned her name. I wanted to laugh. Not out of humor, out of defense. Because at that very moment, the Department of Defense-issued SUV I parked down the block still had the clearance tags on the windshield. The bars on my collar weren't decoration, and the team I supervised had just finished overseeing the secure transition of critical U.S. cyber infrastructure across 3 continents. But to him, I was a disappointment in dress shoes. He walked past me, carrying the boots in his arms like relics. "Don't stay long," he said. "You're not on the program." I stood there for another minute, long enough to feel the burn behind my eyes. Then I turned and left the same way I came in, quiet, alone. My name is Commander Noah Davis, Naval Intelligence, 15 years in service, 3 classified missions, 1 quiet rescue operation that avoided a war. But to my father, I was the blank space in the family album. Growing up, I wasn't the soldier he imagined. I didn't like football. I built my own radio at age 11. I asked too many questions, read too many manuals. He used to call me Wire Boy. My sister Danny ran obstacle courses in middle school. I taught myself to code signal encryptions in our basement. By the time I hit 18, he'd already decided Danny was the legacy. I was the footnote. Still, I joined the Navy. Quietly. Didn't tell him until after I was accepted into a direct commission program for cryptologic warfare. His only response? Guess they're desperate now. That was the first crack. The kind you ignore because you think it's just a bad day. But cracks spread when pressure builds. I buried myself in training. Learned to track satellites by heartbeat. Built response protocols under digital fire. I saw my name rise on black letter memos, mission drafts, debrief notes. I became good. Very good. But I stopped going home. Because being unseen in the field is called stealth. At home, it just felt like being invisible. I still remember the last time he introduced me to someone. We were at a wedding. He nodded toward me and said, "This is my son. He works in support stuff. Computers mostly." I had just returned from Bahrain. The operation we pulled off had stopped a logistics facility from being breached mid-supply drop. But sure computers. Danny never heard those words. She was always my daughter the warfighter. She deserved it. She's good. But what he gave her, he made sure to take away from me. After the garage moment, I didn't go to the dinner. I returned to my hotel, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at my uniform. I'd never felt shame wearing it. Until that night. It wasn't because of what I'd done. It was because someone I once wanted approval from had decided no matter how far I'd come, I'd always be the punchline to a private joke only he told. I opened my email. There was a message from the Joint Command Office. Subject, Operational Review and Recognition Planning. I clicked it numb. At the very bottom, it read, "Your name has been submitted for consideration for the Strategic Defense Leadership Panel. Confirmation pending." I stared at the screen for a long time. Didn't smile, didn't respond, just stared. Because no matter what came next, all I could still hear was his voice. "You're my biggest embarrassment." That sentence would follow me, but it wouldn't define me. Not anymore. After the garage, I stopped taking his calls. Not out of spite, just preservation. The kind of silence that protects you more than it punishes them. The truth is, I'd spent most of my career behind the curtain. Not in the shadows exactly. Just in that gray space where the real work lives quiet, critical, invisible. I was stationed in Bahrain for nearly 2 years. During that time, we ran black tape operations under 6 different naval task groups. I can't tell you the names. I can't give you the coordinates. But I can tell you this. We stopped a coordinated cyber attack that would have grounded U.S. recon drones over the South Pacific. I wrote the patch code myself. It was deployed in under 18 minutes. We bought weeks of breathing room and kept 2 nations from flaring into full-on conflict. You won't find it in the papers. You won't find my name on a medal. But in the field, they know. Captain Ramos used to say, some wars are won in silence. Yours just echo differently. I carried that with me. Back in D.C., the invitation came on a Tuesday. Simple envelope, heavy stock, Navy crest embossed in silver. No postmark, hand-delivered. Inside was a card. The Pentagon Strategic Defense Leadership Summit invites Commander Noah Davis to attend the 30th Annual Recognition Session. Panel topic, Modern Command in Emerging Domains. At first, I thought it was a formality. Maybe someone padded the list with a few token tech side officers to look balanced. But when I looked closer, my name wasn't a filler. It was centered, bolded, featured Speaker Commander, Davis Naval Cyber Intelligence Lead Op, Delphinium. That hit me like cold water, because delphinium that was buried deep, classified enough to scrub from internal databases. If that name was coming to the surface now, something was shifting. The days before the summit moved in a blur. Briefings, suit fittings, more briefings, and then the moment that cracked the surface again. I got a text from Danny. Dad saw your name on the summit list. He's not thrilled. That was it. No follow-up. She always tried to play middle ground. I didn't blame her, but it told me everything I needed to know. I didn't invite him, didn't tell him the time or the room, but part of me knew he'd be there anyway. The night before, I sat in my apartment, dress uniform laid out, shoes polished. I stared at the nameplate, Davis. Just 5 letters, black on brass, but it carried weight. I thought about all the times he'd used that name like a weapon. Don't drag the Davis name down. Try not to make a scene with the family crest on your shoulder. And here I was, about to walk into a Pentagon-level event with my name leading the docket. That night, I didn't sleep. Not from nerves, from the noise, not outside inside. The old questions surfaced like they always did before something big. Do I deserve to be there? Am I still trying to prove something? What if I stay invisible even in the spotlight? Then I remembered something an old mentor once told me. If you weren't supposed to be in the room, the door wouldn't open. The Willard Intercontinental was all glass and marble. I arrived early. Security checked my badge, cleared. Staff handed me a summit folder with my name already printed on the schedule. As I walked toward the reception area, I heard my name whispered. Low, then louder. I turned. And there he was. My father, standing by the corner of the banquet check-in, hands folded behind his back eyes, scanning the room like he owned it. When our eyes met, he didn't flinch. He walked over slowly, deliberate. Noah, he said. Just my name, flat. Sir, I replied. He looked me over top to bottom like he was inspecting a car he didn't order. You clean up well, he muttered. It's regulation, I said. Pause. Then he leaned closer. This whole thing, this isn't really about you. There it was. Again. The slice. Cold. Efficient. I met his eyes. I never asked for it to be. He exhaled through his nose. Almost disappointed, I didn't flinch. Your sister's done real work. She's earned everything. Don't take the stage just to make a point. I tilted my head. I'm not here to make a point. I'm here because I was called. He looked at me like I'd broken some unspoken rule. Then he said it. You've always needed attention, Noah. That's the difference. Danny earned it. You chase it. Something cracked in my chest. But I didn't let it show. Instead, I stepped back, straightened my collar, and said, Then let's see who they call forward. I walked past him into the ballroom and didn't look back. The ballroom looked like something out of a political drama. Dimmed chandeliers, rows of polished mahogany chairs, a velvet-draped podium center stage. The kind of space designed for applause and photo ops. I wasn't there for applause. I took my seat in the third row, far right. Not too close to the stage, but not tucked away. From there, I could see the speaker lineup on the stage card. 3 names were printed in serif font gold ink. Mine was last. Just before noon, the room settled. A hush moved, like breath through the crowd. A moderator stepped up, Vice Admiral Joan Keller, known for her sharp eyes and sharper memory. She welcomed everyone, walked the audience through a few formalities. Then the tone shifted. Today we recognize not just public achievement, but unseen excellence. The kind that shapes outcomes before headlines are even written. My heart tightened. That line, it felt loaded. Our panel includes leaders who have made quiet decisions with loud consequences. I glanced toward the side aisle. There he was again, my father, leaning against a marble column, arms crossed, watching. I didn't flinch. Then Admiral Keller continued. We begin with Lieutenant Commander Danielle Davis, Chief Strategic Analyst, Navy Reserves. Danielle, my sister, rose from the front row. She looked poised, perfect, composed, just like she always had in every family photo and graduation frame. She took the stage. The applause was warm, rehearsed. She deserved it. But I couldn't help but notice Dad was nodding. 10 minutes and Keller thanked Danny and turned to the audience again. Next, we welcome someone whose work in the Pacific Theater Cyber Division redefined our response infrastructure, Commander Davis. I froze. She hadn't said Noah Davis, just Commander Davis. And Danielle had returned to her seat. People glanced between us. The tension was real awkward. Someone near the front whispered, "Wait, didn't she already go?" Admiral Keller looked confused for a flicker of a second, then scanned her notes, then the audience. Her eyes landed on me, and her face shifted. "Correction, Commander Noah Davis. Would you join us, please?" A few chairs turned. Someone muttered, "He's the cyber guy." I stood slowly. Dress shoes clicked against the floor. Not loud, but deliberate. My heart wasn't racing anymore. It was steady, too steady. As I climbed the steps, I caught my father's expression, blank, tight-lipped, and still. I shook Keller's hand. She smiled. The kind that said, "My mistake, but let's make it right." Commander Davis led the cyber maneuver under Operation Delphinium. His response time and reallocation of resources likely prevented escalation in a tri-national conflict zone. Someone near the back started clapping first. Then a few others joined. Not wild applause, not standing ovation, just steady. I took the seat at the far end, sat tall. They called the third speaker an Air Force colonel who'd done impressive things with drone coordination. He talked metrics and network latency. The crowd ate it up. But I wasn't watching the stage anymore. I was watching my father. He stood completely still. He didn't clap, didn't frown, didn't leave. He just stared. After the panel, there was a short Q&A. A few staffers in suits took notes. A young officer from the Air Force asked about AI integration. I answered clearly, concisely. The problem isn't machine thinking, it's human blind spots. We don't need smarter drones. We need smarter accountability. Keller nodded at that, wrote something down. When the session ended, I stood to leave. No fanfare. Then someone grabbed my arm gently. A woman in civilian dress. Early 50s sharp blazer, Pentagon badge. I just wanted to say my nephew was stationed in Guam during the Delphinium incident. We were never told what happened. But he's home because of you. So, thank you. I nodded. Couldn't really speak. That hit harder than the applause. Outside the ballroom, my father was waiting. I didn't stop walking. But he followed. "Noah," he said, "you made your point." I paused, just for a second, then turned. "My point," I said. "What point would that be?" He sighed. "You embarrassed your sister. You made the room about you. Again." There it was, the same old story. "Danny is fine," I said. "She's always been fine, but I'm not her. And I never tried to be." "You could have stayed quiet," he said. Taken the high road. I did, I said. For 10 years. He shook his head. You were always trying to prove something. I looked him square in the eye. I wasn't trying to prove anything. Today, I said, I was asked to speak. I showed up. And for once, they called my name. He didn't answer. Just stood there stiff in his tailored blazer. As if somehow by being seen, I'd betrayed him. That night, I got a voicemail. You had your moment. Hope it was worth it. You'll always be the hardest to explain. I listened to it twice, then deleted it, because I didn't need to explain anymore. The room had spoken, and for the first time, I'd heard it too. 2 days after the summit, I submitted a standard request to the Naval Archives. It wasn't revenge or even closure I was after, just confirmation. Documentation. I asked for any and all declassified records related to Operation Delphinium, specifically cyber protocol response and strategic reallocation orders. The kind of request that usually returns half-blank pages and redacted lines like black tape over memory. The envelope arrived a week later. Manila plain stamped, "Do not reproduce." Inside 36 pages, half of them covered in redactions. I flipped through scanning for anything solid. Some timestamps, a few regional code blocks, notes from the Pacific Fleet's Forward Operating HQ. Then, between a drone audit report and a network recovery map, I found it a single sticky note, real paper, yellowed at the edge, slipped in like someone had left it behind on purpose. The handwriting was slanted neat. CMDR Davis executed the override solo. 2 hours full system integrity recovery. Don't let them pin this on admin. He carried it. Lieutenant Colmier Reese. I read it twice. Then again. Lieutenant Collins Reese had been my CO on Delphinium. She retired last year. Quietly. No LinkedIn. No goodbye emails. She hated bureaucracy. Loved clean data straight talk and solving problems before anyone above her even knew there were problems. This wasn't official. It wasn't even part of the archive chain. But it was real. It was someone who saw me. It hit harder than I expected. Because I didn't realize how much I'd needed someone to put it in ink. Not on an award, just the truth. I scanned the post-it, saved a digital copy, then tucked the original behind the frame on my desk. Not to show, just to remind. That week, I didn't mention the summit to my team. They'd seen it, heard about it in passing, but nobody asked for details. Except Mitchell, my XO. He caught me after a morning briefing, waited until everyone else cleared out. Hey, sir, I saw the recording. Panel looked tight. You looked sharp. I smiled. Appreciate it. He hesitated. Your dad? He didn't look thrilled. I blinked. You watched that close? He shrugged. We all have families, sir. Some cheer, some complicate. That line stayed with me. A week later, I received another envelope. This one was different. Black leather box inside. Navy seal embossed. Heavy. The kind of thing reserved for awards, memorials, or retirements. I opened it slowly. Inside was a Navy Commendation Medal. Engraved. My name, Commander Noah Davis. No press release, no ceremony, no note. Except one, folded underneath the medal, typed in 12-point courier font on plain white printer paper. Delayed recognition is still recognition. Your work saved assets, protected lives, and upheld the mission. This corrects the record. No signature, no sender. But I didn't need one. Somewhere, someone pushed it through, quietly, properly. Not for fanfare, but because the system had noticed the gap and decided to fill it. Not out of guilt, out of principle. And for once, that was enough. I didn't tell my father, didn't send a photo, didn't expect anything. But that night, I sat down and wrote a letter. Typed, simple, honest. You called me your biggest embarrassment. I carried that longer than I ever should have. But here's the truth, I never needed your pride to build something I could stand on. I just wanted the silence to stop being the only voice I heard. This medal doesn't change you, but it did something for me. It proved I could exist in full view without apology. I signed it, Didn't mail it. I folded it, placed it behind the citation in the metal box. Because some words don't need to be sent to be real. They just need to be said. I transferred out of D.C. 2 months after the medal arrived. No announcement, no send-off party. I didn't give anyone the satisfaction of a dramatic exit. Instead, I accepted a new posting, Senior Strategic Advisor at Joint Operations Command, Colorado Springs. It was a clean break, new post, new view. No ghosts in the walls, no history trailing behind like a shadow that always made people whisper before meetings. My new office was small, east-facing window, morning sun by Oro 700. You could smell the pine off the mountains when the breeze cut just right through the vents. No marble floors, no polished shoes echoing down government halls. Just quiet competence. And that's all I wanted. I unpacked slow. 1 box, 2 folders. A framed photo of my old team in Guam post-op dust on our boots, grins crooked from exhaustion. I didn't hang degrees, didn't display medals, but I placed that leather box on the shelf behind me. Still sealed. Still his handwriting tucked inside. Not for memory, for record. That first month, I buried myself in the new rhythm. Intel briefings, logistics audits, deep dive simulations, no fanfare, no speeches, just work. And then one Friday, my boss, Colonel Jenna Ramirez, pulled me aside after a roundtable. I read the transcript from the summit, she said. Straightforward, calm. I waited. She folded her arms. I was at the Pentagon when your name disappeared from that citation. I blinked. She didn't pause. They asked me to rewrite the after-action brief. I refused. Got sidelined for 9 months because of it. So, seeing you on that stage, that was overdue. I didn't know what to say. She added, quieter now. That kind of thing doesn't always get corrected. But when it does, make sure you stay visible. Don't go quiet again. We lose too many good ones that way. It stuck with me. Later that week, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I let it ring out. Then checked the voicemail. It was Darren. His voice was clipped, measured. Hey, I don't know what the hell that summit was supposed to be, but I got sidelined. They pulled my keynote for next month's Europe tour. Press is asking questions. Dad's pissed. A pause. I don't know what you said to make this happen, but you've made things harder for everyone. You could have handled this differently, quieter. I didn't reply, didn't save it, didn't even feel anger. Because in that moment, I understood something clearly. He didn't care that it was true. He just cared that it became public. Weeks passed. I got used to the cold mornings, the hum of air traffic above NORAD, the stillness of a workplace that didn't need optics to value performance. One afternoon, while reviewing a field readiness packet, a junior officer knocked on my door. Ensign Liu. Sir, he said, nervous. Sorry, just... Could I ask something? I nodded. It's about the panel, the one from the summit. Someone sent me a clip. What you said? How you just stood there while the room caught up. That meant something. He paused. How did you do that? Stay still when everything felt like it wanted to push you out. I looked at him. You stop asking for permission. He didn't answer, just nodded slowly and left. And after he closed the door, I realized I hadn't said that for him. I'd said it for me. It happened on a Thursday. I came back from a simulation review meeting to find a thick envelope waiting on my desk, no return address, just my name typed cleanly across the front. I didn't open it immediately. Something about the weight of it made me pause. There are packages that feel like closure. This one didn't. It felt like something unfinished. Inside a single printed letter, 2 clippings from a military publication, and a formal request to speak at the upcoming Joint Integrity and Ethics Forum in Arlington. Panel title, Command Decisions, Ethical Leadership in Crisis. And below that, a simple line. Recommended by Captain Jenna Ramirez and Rear Admiral Kessler. My throat went dry. I held the letter longer than I needed to. Not because of the invitation, because of the message behind it. This time, someone else had spoken for me. And not to correct a lie, but to honor the truth. I said yes. Not for revenge, not even for vindication. I said yes, because I no longer believed I had to apologize for being visible. The event wasn't as grand as the summit. No chandeliers, no senators, just folding chairs in neat rows, uniforms starched and attentive, the scent of paper programs and brewed coffee filling the corners of the conference hall. When I stepped onto the stage, the lights weren't blinding. The mic didn't squeal. There was no dramatic entrance. I just walked to the podium. And for the first time, I told the full story. No names, no blame. Just truth. How command sometimes means doing what's right even when no one's watching. How silence when weaponized can erase decades of work in seconds. How we can't expect integrity from our institutions if we reward omission over correction. When I finished, there was no standing ovation. Just a deep collective exhale. The kind that happens when people feel seen. Afterward, someone approached me. Civilian, late 50s, wore an old Navy windbreaker and a name badge with faded ink. My daughter's an aviation tech out in Okinawa, he said. Smart, too damn quiet for her own good. I'm sending her the transcript. He paused, his voice catching. She thinks she has to act small to be taken seriously. Maybe this'll change her mind. I nodded. He didn't need to say anything else. The next day, my inbox had 27 messages. Not from press, not from leadership. From officers past and present who'd sat quietly for too long. Some had stories like mine. Some were just grateful someone had said it out loud. None of them asked for attention. They just said thank you for reminding me I'm not invisible. And for the first time since that day in my father's garage, I didn't feel like I had to explain why I was still standing. It was quiet when I stepped back onto the porch. Same planks, same faded swing. But it didn't creak anymore, not like it used to when I was a teenager, sitting out there with knees pulled to my chest, wondering why silence always settled like smoke inside that house. I hadn't been home in over 6 years. No holidays, no calls, just the occasional envelope from my father, always thin, always formal, W-2s, tax reminders, a single-word signature Davis. Not Dad, not love always, just Davis. But this time I came back not because I owed him something, I came because I had nothing left to prove. The door wasn't locked. He sat at the table like always, elbows on the wood newspaper folded like armor. His hair had thinned. His watch was still set 5 minutes fast. He didn't look up. You're early, he muttered. I'm not staying. That got his eyes. He studied me like he was looking for something to criticize, posture, tone, purpose. When he found nothing, he settled on the box in my hand. The black leather one. You came to return it. I sat across from him and placed the box between us. No, I said. I came so you'd know it's not yours to give. His mouth tightened, but he didn't speak. The silence stretched thin between us like glass. You called me your biggest embarrassment, I said evenly, back when I told you I was deploying again. I remember. I had my orders in my hand, and you said, you just want attention. You're making the family look unstable. He opened his mouth. I held up a hand. I don't want an apology. Then what do you want? He snapped. I want you to understand that everything I built was despite that voice, not because of it. I want you to sit in this silence and realize it's yours, not mine. His jaw clenched. I raised you to be strong. No, I said. You raised me to be quiet. We sat there a long time. Long enough for the shadows to stretch across the kitchen tile. Long enough for the clock on the wall to tick past nothing. Then I stood. I didn't take the box. I didn't take his regret. Because neither one was mine to carry anymore. Back in Colorado, I started building something new. Not a legacy. Not a redemption arc. Just stability. Integrity in motion, a space where junior officers could ask questions and still be promoted, where silence wasn't used as currency to buy favor from the top. One by one, people started showing up. Not loud, not performative, just real. Captain Kessler sent a message that just said, still watching, still proud. Colonel Ramirez gave me a new advisory track focused on training ethics officers for independent review boards. She smiled when she handed me the file. You'll make the process better, she said. Because you lived the broken version? I did. And I didn't resent it. Because that pain, the buried, invisible kind, had become the reason other people might never have to feel it. One evening, I got a package. No note, no return label. Inside was a photo. Me from the summit. On stage. Not smiling, not bowed. Just standing there, uniform pressed, eyes forward. On the back, in neat handwriting, we saw, we see, we'll remember. There was no signature. Didn't need one. I still keep the black box. On a shelf, not hidden. Not a trophy. Not shame. Just a fact. The silence ends here.